Hi, everyone. It's Robin Da Vinci, and I'm going to talk about a subject that people like to stick their fingers in their ears and close their eyes because they read a headline that says inflation is up by 3% or inflation is dropping down to 4.5%, the lowest it's been in 10 years, or some other headline about inflation. And politicians use inflation to counteract each other's accusations. They point the finger and say, oh, groceries are higher or gas is higher and it's inflation and this president or that president or this Congress is not helping us. But inflation is a very serious thing that is really dealt to you by corporations. I don't know if you guys read the headline after the summer of debates and confusion about some of the big corporations like Target and Walmart lowering prices by this much after they were kind of scolded that they've kept prices arbitrarily high. And corporations have this in common. They have investors, and some of you watching have your 401ks invested in these corporations. And these corporations want to give you good dividends so you'll keep investing in them. And to do that, they have to bring in money from groceries, oil, all commodities. They have to bring in the money, and they have to keep, for the most part, raising prices and lowering expenses. Now, the way they do that is to get rid of labor, right? So your 401k is invested. You say, well, I'm getting good money back, and you're not looking to see what it's invested in, but you're going to the grocery store and you're yelling about that and saying, prices are so high. I pay $6 for a bag of chips and there's way less chips in it. Or I'm paying for this and I'm paying for that. How could eggs keep going up? Well, part of the problem is that if transportation is high and the cost of transferring food from one state to another is high, then that price will go up. If labor wants a raise, that price will go up. How about cars? We kind of broke the car industry because they didn't want to pay for labor, and now they've got robots in there. So what I'm saying is, if we have a high demand for things like groceries, gasoline, staples in the family, automobiles, travel, trips, all those kind of things, in order to give dividends to the people that are invested in these corporations, they've got to lower their prices and give you less, or keep prices high and get rid of people and other things that are in the way. And that's what they're doing. So if you went into a grocery store and you were doing self-check because you don't like to stand in a line, you're taking a job away from someone. You're lowering the corporation that owns that self-checkout in that building, and you are giving them more profit, and their CEO is getting an incredible bonus every year. CEOs are not taking less money. Corporations are buying back their stock, selling it at a lower price, buying it back, and then reissuing it. That used to be against the law. During the Reagan administration, he made that legal. So now corporations buy back a whole bunch of their stock, reissue it to investors, keep their prices high so that they can give you, as investors, more money in your quarterly dividends. And so they keep investors happy who are actually faceless and nameless. So if you have an objection to how much cable costs or groceries cost or oil costs, find out what you're invested in, because the average person is not invested in anything, and they're suffering the inflation increases because you are getting money back on your portfolio. Now, I'm totally in support of you getting money back for your investments, but there's kind of a line we've crossed now where we've forgotten about, well, all the other people are really struggling to pay for the things that you're getting dividends on. And that makes it very difficult to explain inflation to the average person who isn't getting money in from corporations in a stock portfolio. So what we have is a big divide in this country about inflation. Some people are just getting high prices. And believe me, they could be lowered. You see gasoline go up and down. Groceries could be a lot lower. Gas could be a lot lower. But then profits are less and shareholders are not getting their dividends. The corporations are run by its shareholders, not just by their board of directors. I mean, everybody thinks of it as lofty up here, but all of you who own stock in a grocery company, because there's only 4 big ones in this country, if you own stock in that and you're getting a dividend from their profits, you're part of the inflation problem. And you go, but that's a dichotomy that I can't really resign myself myself to, I don't know what to do. If I'm getting dividends from grocery company who is keeping their prices artificially high, or transportation prices are artificially high, or they're just genuinely high because trucking is high and gas is high, you're in a cycle you can't get out of with inflation. It's going to hit you somewhere. And so the average person can't buy things. The average person is getting into the bargain basement stuff. The average person is trying to make it work and they don't know what to do about it. So they don't understand that it's corporate driven. And I don't want to call it greed, because people work hard for their money and they invest it and they're working toward retirements and having vacation money. And I support all of that. But there is a downside, and it's called the gap. The people that are getting money back because of their investments can sometimes handle the inflationary differences, but someone who doesn't have any of that and is just the victim of inflationary costs, inflationary rises, inflation rising up all the time, they're the ones that are at risk. And really, if we're not going to help each other out, why are we here? So the next time you're complaining about prices and you're complaining about inflation, just reading a headline, go to a source that explains how inflation works and why it is what it is, and see if there's not something you could do about it yourself, that there isn't something you could do. At least get a glance at what you're invested in so that you know that what you're invested in is part of the reason why things are higher than they should be. There's no reason that we have to pay $7 for a loaf of bread. There are elements that make bread more expensive, but the top element, there is cream at the top that could be erased, but no one's willing to do it. And in a capitalist society, that probably won't happen. So I'm not saying you shouldn't be invested. I'm just saying, before you complain, go see what you're invested in and see if that's not part of the problem and that you're making money from someone else's pain. But that's always been the way it is. It's always been the way it is. So it's not a criticism. It's just an observation that most people don't look at that next layer. You see a headline and you go, oh, it's inflation. It's the current administration's fault. Oh, what is Congress going to do about it? Well, they're not going to do anything about it because it's capitalism and it's the corporations. So you just have to figure it out. And most of us just pay a higher price. For me, I just don't pick up stuff that I think is totally overpriced. I just won't participate in that. That's how I fight inflation. I just don't participate in stuff. I decide what I really need. And if I just want it because I want it and it's too much, I just don't do it. And because we can't fight inflation, we can't fight the corporations. We just have to have an internal clock, an internal calculator that says, I'm just not going to participate this much. Like going to Disneyland for $161. If you can't afford it, you can't afford it. So anyway, that's inflation. That's the problem. And as long as we invest in corporations that want to give their shareholders money, you're going to be part of the problem. You're going to be involved in this vortex of high prices, lower quality, less quantity. You're going to be saying, my goodness, are they going to start only putting 5 pieces of bread in a loaf now? What is happening? Because I hear it everywhere. Everywhere says, why are we doing this? We're getting less and we're paying so much more. But that's why. So look at your portfolio, see what you're invested in. You have a right to take your investment, get a statement, go in and ask. This says blah, blah, blah. What does that mean? What is that money in? Because it will say some arbitrary name that you won't understand. You need to go down another layer and find out what that means. Always check every quarter at least. And you can say, I'd like my money taken out of there, put somewhere else. Now remember, there could be a gain, there could be a loss. You need to be able to know all those things. And the way the corporations get away with this is that they like an ignorant electorate. They like ignorant consumers. And I'm encouraging you not to be one. Please be strong. Please look into it. Please understand that we don't have to be a victim of this. And I think it's really cool that behind me is this blue light and it looks like I have super cool earrings on. So with that, I'm going to say goodbye and check out your inflation. Check out how you can participate in lowering your personal inflation. Thanks for listening. Like and subscribe.